This is Defenders TV Podcast, episode 72, where the Summer of Strange continues as we look and delve into Doctor Strange, the TV movie, 1978. Welcome back, Defenders, to this episode of Defenders TV Podcast. We're on episode 72, and we're looking at the Doctor Strange TV movie or TV pilot from 1978. So welcome to the time warp, the psychedelic, trippy, drug-fueled time warp that is Doctor Strange in 1970. I'm one of your hosts, John.
I feel like I should have been going woo underneath everything you said there. I'm one of your other hosts, Derek.
And out of the astral plane, back for good, is Chris.
Yes, Chris is back with us.
Yay!
Welcome back, Chris.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you, the Amagato?
Yes, you've been watching us from your astral plane.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, I also, by the way, guys, with Doctor Strange, I'm going to get every pronunciation wrong. Just saying.
Don't worry, they get a few wrong themselves as well. Yes, listeners, we've been holding off on our review of the Doctor Strange series because we wanted to bring Chris through the experience of Doctor Strange, really. We've been holding off on the review of the TV movie specifically because we know Chris has never seen it before. And it's an exciting one to go back to the 70s and see what they were doing at the time with such, I suppose, smaller CGI budgets, smaller budgets overall for these kind of programming. And interesting to see Chris's thoughts, being the youngest one of the three of us, as what he would think of a show set in the 70s.
I was only 1 year old.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
So it's not that I remember it.
Yes, I know.
I'm
Don't
a child
remember
of...
when you were a child of one?
I know,
Come
I am
on.
a child of the 80s.
Are you sure you didn't see this young on when you were a kid and this
No.
what formed your opinion about Doctor Strange?
I remember Spider-Man, I remember The Incredible Hulk, but I don't remember this Doctor Strange TV pilot. But of course, like, in that sense, the TV between the US and, say, the UK, it just wouldn't have been as transferable as it is like today. So this would have been for North America's eyes only.
Yeah. Yeah, this aired once in the US on CBS, same channel that produced both the shows that John mentioned, the Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk. This was supposed to be the third of their very successful series of shows, but didn't make it, unfortunately. We'll probably talk about it as we go into the episode. But yes, a show like that, having one pilot, airing once, never aired again, never transferred to the UK and Ireland. I think early 90s we probably saw it on the Sci-Fi Channel, or it was released on the Sci-Fi channels, over in Europe, maybe at some point. But yeah, definitely this is something that I caught up on sometime in the noughties. I think I saw it, available, bought it, watched it, but that would have been the first time I think I saw it.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose really, drugs might help with this, for listening to this podcast. Drugs may have helped watching the TV, pilot of Doctor Strange. Very trippy, very psychedelic, very, 1970s music, discordant, funky, a waka waka wow, all that kind of thing.
But we will want to stress here, none of us took any drugs
whilst watching this TV show.
No.
Just while watching this.
It was like taking drugs. But I think before we get into our trippy endeavor as well, this is our Summer of Strange, and we do have a competition for all the listeners. The competition is please leave a review on iTunes for us. It helps people to find the podcast. It also provides us with great feedback. So any reviews on iTunes or any other good podcast catcher, if you can, please do so. And the prizes are a pop Doctor Strange figurine. It's also the Prelude comics prior to the Doctor Strange movie coming out in October, November of this year with Benedict Cumberbatch. And we also have the Way of the Weird digital copy as well for people to use the code and download. That's our competition. And of course, you can find us to review at defenderstvpodcast.com. defenders.tv/iTunes, or search Defenders TV Podcast on any other good, evil, mystical, magical, yin or yang podcast catcher, such as Stitcher, Player FM, Podcast Addict. So please just head over there, leave a review, and you will be in with a shout to win the prizes that we have on offer for our Summer of Strange, all leading to the movie in 2016, the only movie of any worth, which is Doctor Strange.
Oh, I so hope you're not going to be disappointed by this.
I probably will.
But I think we're going to set the bar low with the 1970s Doctor
It can only get better.
Yeah, so I think we're going to start off there. But some of our longer term listeners will know that while we're on our breaks between the Defenders series on Netflix, that we do these kind of competitions. Really, it's to kind of make sure that we get some kind of reviews on iTunes. It helps people to pick up the podcast, and hopefully we give something back to our listeners that have been listening to us and are faithfully staying with us through some of the more enduring of the Marvel properties, I suppose. So I think it's time to get into Doctor Strange, the TV pilot from 1978. This was created as a pilot for the TV show. Unfortunately, didn't get picked up, so we only have this one version of the show. It's an hour-and-a-half pilot, trying to set up the universe for an ongoing series. This version of the show was written by Peter Wooten, and directed by him as well, with apparently the most input from Stan Lee of any of the three shows that were on CBS. So I think that's quite interesting to call out. Stan Lee had a lot of involvement in this.
Yeah, he was on as a consultant.
Yeah, but he said in an interview in 1985, 1986 that this was the one he had most input in versions of Incredible Hulk and Amazing Spider-Man, despite being a major creative behind that. He didn't have any input in the storylines or anything like that. So this was his big one. John, do you want to tell us what Peter gave us in your synopsis for the episode?
Sure. The Protector of Earth, the Ancient One, known as Linma, played by John Mills, races to pass on his knowledge of the mystic arts to another young sorcerer as the barriers separating Earth from the Dark Dimensions start to crumble. As the Nameless One, played by David Hooks, sends the evil sorceress Morgan Le Fay, Jessica Walter, to destroy the wizard Linma, or his successor, and claim dominion over Earth, a psychiatrist, Dr. Stephen Strange, played by Peter Wooten, becomes increasingly drawn into a world he never knew existed. Psychically connected to his patient Clear Lake, played by Anne-Marie Martin, used as a pawn by Le Fay to destroy Linma, Stephen Strange's only way to save her, Linma, and humanity is to delve into the hermetic and mystical arts and discover his true purpose in the world as the new Sorcerer Supreme of the Earth.
Very, very cool. A couple of changes from the origin story that we know and talked about on our Strange 101 podcast, which you may have just heard. Couple of changes to that, but pretty much on track with some of the creations. Yeah. So overall, Chris, do you want to kick us off with just a quick overview of what you thought of this version of Doctor Strange?
I think my text to you guys, we have a group going just for when we kind of chatter, and I think the first 3 minutes in, I literally said, what the hell are you making me watch? Followed by a series of ever increasing scared GIFs. GIFs, I should say. It's unique.
Yes.
It is very unique. And I think that's probably, did I enjoy it? Yeah. Like, it was fun. But it's a bit of rough going for the first kind of, 30 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically Monk or, Dr. Quincy. And you're like, what's going on here? I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And even looking back, like, I think they tried so hard, and you can see that. I mean, like, I have seen the Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk, and you can see where they pulled some unique takes on the overall Doctor Strange, but yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to know where it would have gone for an episode 2, basically.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really good setup, but it's difficult to know. But I suppose you could have involved Dracula and Frankenstein and all those kind of things.
Yeah, there were a couple of little allusions to that in the episode, weren't there? Yeah.
But, no, similar to you, this is kind of you'll love it or you'll hate it. You'll look at it fondly or you'll just look at it and go, what the hell? I mean, you know, if the time gen really is in the eye of Agamotto for the movie, then, thank goodness, because, I mean, time is the problem for this show. It is the fact that it was done in the 70s, low budget. I mean, don't be expecting high def visuals. And there is persistent noise in terms of like basically instead of waterboarding, soundboarding. I mean, again, the first time I watched it, I think I had a headache after 15, 20 minutes because the music, which actually it really grew on me, really liked, became so discordant and increasingly intense that I was like, so don't be expecting that. Expect plenty of mustaches.
The music really was like Hans Zimmer's Joker score from The Dark Knight. Just repeated, like really deep, epic kind of evil sounding violins and really, really dark strings. For my part for this version of the show, I definitely think you need to get through about 20 minutes of it, which means you're going through 2 full ad breaks. If you were watching this on TV, you'd have to get through about 2 full ad breaks. And then there's a moment where Doctor Strange enters the dream world of Clea Lake. And from that point onwards, I think it's actually really, really interesting. I think it's really, really good, and I did enjoy it. Now, John, what did you think on the actual episode itself? Just a general overview.
No, I think I watched it fondly. I mean, I think I reminisced on Doctor Strange, and ultimately, it's great visuals. I think it really connects in with Ditko's like psychedelic art. Certainly, when you move into the second half of the TV pilot. So I really liked it. I think you'll either love it or hate it. It'll be Marmite effectively. You won't be able to deal with it because it is kind of so old and a bit dodgy. As I say, it's not the best visuals. It's not, the sound can be a bit irritating and persistent. There's a lot of mustaches, as I said, and a lot of those kind of glances to camera, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And I mean, if that bothers you, then you're probably not going to like it. But I mean, if you reminisce about, TV shows of old, well then it's a good watch. And actually it gets better as it moves through it, I think.
Definitely. And one thing I will say, listeners, if you hear the words great and fantastic and good, I think just in your mind, just add the term for the time. I think that's okay for the 3 of us, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. So if we say the words great, we are thinking about for the time. So we do understand if this was a show on TV, it probably wouldn't have gotten a full series if it came out now. But I think overall we're pretty...
Divide everything we say by 10, basically. We might be getting carried away with Doctor Strange, the TV movie.
But I think it's time to go into our top 5 points. The way we cover our episodes, if you're joining us for the first time for Summer of Strange, is that we talk about our top 5 points about the episodes. Some good, some bad. There may be some bad in here, but they may cross over as well. So we may not have a full 15 points for you, but we do have our top 5s. Chris, do you want to kick us off with your first point about Doctor Strange, the TV pilot?
Yeah. So I'm going to go in with a kind of an analogy for our younger listeners, probably kind of my age, in your late 20s, early 30s. But we weren't around for this, and I was trying to, what would this be now if it was released now? This would be Grey's Anatomy with magic and a hell of a lot of porn stashes. I think this is the best analogy I can give it.
I like it.
It's a hospital procedural for the first 20 to 30 minutes. There's a lot in there. Like there's that boardroom meeting where they all start talking about patients.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is going on. Like, I was like, 3 minutes. Okay. They'll be ending. No, 4 minutes. Okay. Okay. Why do we care about like, there was a lot of, you could see that they were trying to set up so much more that this would be Doctor Strange, life in the hospital versus life in the mystical kind of plane area. But no, I say this it was probably, if this had gone on, I think this would have been as good or perhaps better than The Incredible this time.
Right.
Because what they did is, where The Incredible Hulk was always the villain of the week, like the one where he had to beat up the abusive father.
Right.
Like Incredible Hulk nearly killing a guy because he was beating up a kid.
Yeah.
This...
we used to go town to town to solve the individual problems in that town and then move on to the next one. Yeah.
Like the littlest hobo.
Pretty much. The most gigantic big green hobo.
This I could see where they were going, like you would get these perhaps Doctor Strange would get a new patient in, and that would lead to some element of the mystic realm or something. Or they'd have he battles his life versus, like, I'm not going to getting spoilery, just like towards the end, he goes back into that same meeting, and he's a little bit more confident. And I was like, this could be fun.
Yeah.
But the porn stashes get me a lot. Like, it's the 70s. I get it. Yeah. I get this thing. You have to put a filter on this.
Peter Wooten looked cool with that tash, though.
He looked the part.
Yes.
He actually really looks the part of Stephen Strange. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And you do bring up one of the interesting changes, I suppose, to the original version of Doctor Strange. He's a psychiatrist here. He's not a surgeon.
Yeah, he's not a neurosurgeon.
So this is quite interesting because I was reading, I think I mentioned on the last podcast, I've been reading some of the really early Doctor Stranges from his first appearance in Strange Tales. And the first consultation he has as he is Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, is with somebody that's had problems in their dreams. They're having these horrible dreams of another dimension. So it is kind of a psychiatrist focus, I suppose. He doesn't become a surgeon as the character until about 4 or 5 issues later. So I like that they've taken that side of him, that he is kind of trying to solve people's mental issues rather than just doing some surgery on them. So I like that you use that part of it in this version of Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and the one thing I think I did like finally, just when I'm kind of giving a similarity between Grey's Anatomy with magic. That at the very end, there was that very playful thing where you see this now more jovial Doctor Strange. He performs a bit of camera trickery, but it is like magic.
Yeah.
I don't want, like, that scene is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
It's a brilliant scene. And I'm like, that could be cool. These street magic chicks Doctor Strange is playing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because he could just imagine, like, oh, the pen is gone out of someone's hand, or it turns into a snake, and really funny. Like, they'll have this jovial, humorous elements where, like, Spider-Man didn't have that, and The Incredible Hulk was always somber.
So good.
Always just walking backwards.
Man walk.
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's the best analogy I can give it.
I love, just to talk about that scene really quickly, sorry. I love that what he actually does. So the guy's supposed to be producing a bunch of flowers from a handkerchief. I love that he doesn't go overboard and produce something like a snake. He does a dove from a handkerchief, which is actually a well-known street magic trick.
Yeah.
So all he does is replace a street magic trick with a street magic trick.
The magician's like, what?
Yeah, the only person that probably noticed that is magic is the magician himself, because he knew that there's no dove underneath the handkerchief. Everybody else is like, oh, okay, I've seen that down the street.
But to do it with his mystic fingers, he just rubs his temples. And I'm like, but he rubs his temples by going, do you remember the nose
The
twitch?
mystic fingers in the 1970s has got really bad connotations.
Yes.
And I've now got Paul Daniels being the Sorcerer Supreme, with Debbie McGee. I'm like, oh god.
She'd be
no.
the Clea.
Yeah, oh my god.
On that note, John, do you want to give us
On
your
that
first
bombshell,
point?
on that bombshell. It's the reverse side of this. It's, as we spoke in our 101 about the origin and about the character of Stephen Strange, this actually is almost the yin or the yang to what his actual origin and his character is at the start. And it's kind of an interesting take, really. It's the reverse of Stephen Strange's origin tale. Instead of him seeking out the Ancient One, the Ancient One is seeking out the person who he knows to be the successor to him. It kind of chimes with what T. Swint says in the trailer about, I've been peering through time to find you. It's kind of that element of the story that is happening here with Linma. And so it's kind of the reverse. As I say, rather than him going to Tibet, Muhammad is coming to the mountain. Yeah, exactly.
For those of you who haven't joined us for our discussions about the trailers for the new Doctor Strange film, T. Swinton is Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, which will continue to be called T. Swinton.
T. Swinton. Well, it's easier to say. Yeah.
It's also it's not like Taylor Swift. Just letting you know.
Absolutely.
Taylor Swift is not in Doctor Strange.
And I think also then the other interesting note is his character. He's not this arrogant neurosurgeon. And there's that whole scene where he's helping playing one of the alcoholic ladies, and he really seems to have a conscience. He's working in a public hospital. He's not a private consultant or surgeon. He defends the fact that he's allowed this lady who's got alcohol problems to stay in the hospital overnight to keep her off the juice, as they're affectionately calling it. And he's having to battle with his boss, Dr. Taylor, to try and say that this is okay, we should be doing that. So there's a real kind of public-spirited conscience of Stephen Strange here as a doctor, as the character, which goes the reverse of what his origin in the comics is. And that's kind of an interesting take. I don't have a problem with them mixing it up with regards to origins and to characters.
Yeah.
Because it still works, actually. And I like that. It chimes with Linma's assertion that, the person who is the Sorcerer Supreme needs to be someone who has humanity, in the forefront of their mind as they protect the Earth and the planet. And whereas in the comics, he has to overcome his arrogance to think like that. Here, I suppose it's already there. So that it removes an element of the character development, I suppose. But, I kind of enjoyed this reverse side of it. It's easier for the audience to connect. And I suppose if you're doing a pilot, you probably want someone who is immediately, sympathetic or you can warm to, rather than someone who's cold and heartless. Maybe certainly back in the 70s. I think it'd be different now.
Yeah. I think that was it. I think that's the reason I kind of liked it is because, the character was, there's a line at the end. It was like, "What about love?"
Yes.
And he goes, "Yes, because you love humanity, you will always find love and be able to take it."
Oh, that was totally for the 70s audience. That was totally. Don't worry, there will be a love interest of the week.
Yes,
he's not becoming a monk.
Yeah. And I think that was really good.
Definitely, and as you say, he's not an arrogant surgeon like in the comic books. He is definitely a womanizer like in the comic books. He's definitely a man that gets what he wants. I love, there's a great moment with Clea where they are going home. She's saying to him, maybe we can go on a date kind of thing. She loses her memory, and then later on when it comes back and they're doing the same street walk, he repeats her lines back to her so that he knows he's going to get the date out of her. He says, "Well, maybe I can help you with your homework. Maybe we could go out for dinner." She said those exact same things to him early on in the episode. So I love that he's still the womanizer. So he's not arrogant, but he's definitely a proper 70s man.
Yeah, he's still a womanizer. Absolutely, yeah. The whole love thing as well would transfer to hipsters in the modern age really well.
Yeah, totally.
The universe is love. Peace, man. Absolutely. I'm a secret, trippy, psychedelic love and peace man from the 70s.
Of course. Well, that would explain your love for Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Definitely.
So, Derek, what's your first point?
My first point of the villains in this, I really, really love the opening of this episode. Right, you got to remember, and just take this into account, I'm a huge fan of Doctor Who, right? So I'm talking from when I was a kid, this was the first show that I was watching every single week, right back to the days of Tom Baker, into the days of Peter Davidson. I'm not talking about the newfangled great CGI. So opening up with a hand puppet, with lights on its head, which is filmed so you can't really see the puppet very well, but you can kind of see the mouth move. So this is the nameless one, or Dormammu, as we're going to definitely be calling it throughout the episode.
Is it or isn't it Dormammu?
I love the setup. I love the fact that we see the Dark Dimension.
That was cool
from the comic books, and it looks quite similar. It does look like the MC Escher style of artwork. And we see Morgan Le Fay, who is a comic book villain, very, very popular now, and actually has been used quite recently in the Secret Wars, arcs. As one of the major villains, which is quite cool to see an actual character from the Marvel Universe in this TV show. But I love that this is the overall concept. This would be pretty shocking if you came from, as you mentioned, Chris, the Incredible Hulk. Oh, I'll turn on to that new Marvel show. And those episodes have been about the drunken wife beater being taken down by the most powerful of Marvel's heroes. And then you come onto this show on a Saturday night and it's set in another dimension. Like, that must be so jarring for you. But I think they set it up really well. And I think having a female protagonist as well is really unusual. That would be something that you wouldn't see very often back in the 70s. And actually, even now, most of the protagonists or antagonists, in these type of shows or these type of movies would be male and would be the powerful battle between two men against each other. I love that it's Morgan Le Fay. I love that she's our villain here, and she's going to use her feminine wiles all the way through the episode to try and take out Doctor Strange and get him on her side, which I love. I think that's really good.
Yeah, it's both her strength and her weakness.
Exactly.
So I have two things on that. One, Dormammu, or the nameless one, looks like Beaker, who has been dipped in red paint.
Yes, and through a filter. Don't
Yes,
worry.
and through a filter. But I was literally expecting one point going. It was still good, and I enjoyed it. But okay, I don't know how much to be. Remember when we saw Thanos for the first time in the Avengers? Yes. So that looks like that dimension
It really
now.
does, doesn't it?
I'm like going, it was all rocky, but okay, where we had a purple hue or blue hue. Now back then it was a red hue, and I was
smoke.
like, with smoke, and I was like, now we know where they ripped that off.
I know.
Yeah.
I was expecting the chair to twist around and have Thanos sitting there in the background going, I'll just do it myself then, Dormammu. yeah, no, I definitely got that as well.
I love the fact as well that the nameless one, I will leave you old and barren, to Morgan Le Fay after she's failed again, because she basically had the hots for Stephen Strange, because he's so goddamn sexy.
It's the stash.
Yeah. It is. Like, she failed to carry out her mission because she fell in love.
Yes.
And we do see a little bit of, sexual healing going on in the Dark Dimension as well.
Absolutely. Well, it is the 70s. There is definitely going to be some of that.
It's excellent. I loved it.
And can I just say, the actress who plays Morgan Le Fay, did you guys recognize who it was?
Yeah. Not at all.
The mother from Arrested Development.
I loved it when I found out that. Archer, Arrested Development.
That's right.
Oh, great.
But I actually didn't know this. Back in Arrested Development, when they're doing, there was a throwback from Arrested Development to this film.
Really?
Yeah, because they were doing some play about superheroes and stuff, and they made her. They asked her to play the evil older woman.
Oh, fantastic.
That was brilliant.
All right.
Like, you see, people's careers weren't destroyed by this TV pilot.
Yes, not everybody.
Not everyone.
Chris, do you want to take us on to your next point?
So I'm going to talk about the origin story, but a different element of it.
Okay.
The car crash.
Yes.
So I think, John, you said it was the whole chosen one. This is around this element of him being the chosen one. That, as we kind of talked about in our 101, typically it's the car crash that what Doctor Strange was in, or Stephen Strange, that causes his injuries and stuff. In this reimagining, his parents got in the car and had the car accident to save him.
That's right. Yep.
So that he was, and his parents knew about him being the successor, or his father did, I think was said. And I actually liked that. That was because you could see that being played out later on, potentially in the TV show, where maybe some guilt happens, or he finds out more about why his family sacrificed themselves to save him. And then there was the whole, I don't know what it was about. I think it's a very TV show. I like saying trope, but it's not.
Welcome back, Chris.
Yeah, thanks. I like my tropes. But it is. You can see that this whole self-sacrifice of a family member to save the chosen one being used in many, many things. And I think John's going to talk about that later. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But
you may be guessing right.
oh my god,
You are a master of the mystical arts.
more the porn stash arts. Oh yeah. But no, I enjoyed that. I think there was an element to it where you would see that the kids would love this, kind of going, oh my god, I could be like Stephen Strange. And I think that was, I don't know what it was about. It was something I went, it was fun. It was a different way of taking it.
Yeah, it's one of the things that you mentioned earlier on, John. It's how would this take up as a weekly series? And you can understand that there may be now some investigation that Stephen would go through to find out more about the society that involves the Ancient One. Because remember, it's not the Ancient One that gives him the powers at the end. There is that beam of light with the talking voice that gives him the powers. Yeah. Is that the voice of the Ancient One, or is that something else?
I think that would be the Vishanti.
Right, but yeah.
Oh, actually, hold on. Speaking of that,
interesting.
The symbol, is that the actual symbol, or is that a take on it, or
it's pretty much the same? Yeah.
Okay.
It's the seal of Vishanti. Definitely.
Okay. Because I was looking at it, I was going, kind of know, but it's slightly different. And
It is. It's a slightly different form, but I think that's just probably a take on it.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's still, I think, the seal of Vishanti.
It is, yes.
Because I thought the sun had like a voice for a second. I was getting really
Like in Teletubbies?
yeah, it was kind of like see Stephen running over grass
You know
hills.
what? The inspirations for this TV show run wide and deep.
They certainly do.
I think that leads you.
That
on to your
is
point,
a nice segue into my next point. So Harry Potter. Is this a novel thing at all? No, I say that jokingly, but we see a lot of things here. We see, you know, the parents protecting their child who has a destiny, here. We have the Mrs. McGonagall, cat trick where Morgan Le Fay transforms. And I think that's really neatly done in the study in the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yeah.
Really well.
I do think if Wong had turned on the lights, it would have just been two bulbs moving up.
I would say so.
But I do like it, yeah.
But
it was really well
it's
done.
good. It's really well done. You see the limitation of the time really helps in that case, I think. But we have the Mrs. McGonagall transformation from the cat into the witch. And we also have the beams of light. Okay, they don't have wands, but that you've got the battle between Wong and Morgan Le Fay, Linma and Morgan Le Fay all have these beams of light coming in. So,
and the different colours, the
different
yellow
colours
versus red.
Yeah, yellow versus red, just like the big showdown between Voldemort and Harry Potter.
He who should not be named.
Yeah. The nameless one. The nameless
The nameless one.
I mean,
oh my God.
my goodness. It's like,
J.K. Rowling.
you know, fantastic. I mean, I love Harry Potter, but you're just there kind of going, wow, all these different ideas are there already. I mean, even, and I have to say, you know, even Morgan Le Fay, the character comes from Arthurian legend as well, in terms of an evil witch. So, okay, you know, there's all this, what did they say? There's only like 6 stories that you can possibly tell. So
all written by Shakespeare, yeah.
Yeah, apparently. or Plato or something like that. So it's all kind of melds into this sort of cultural thread. So I kind of like that. But I was there going, this is like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Linmer is Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, a really interesting one. So Linmer, do you know where he gets the name? Because he's not called Linmer in the comic books. He is the ancient one in the comic books. So Linmer is actually just Merlin separated and put the other way around. I thought that was really interesting because he's the head wizard. So, did you get that one?
No, I do now. I do. I'm like,
Because the D is silent as well.
Yeah.
So it is spelled Lindmer, but it's Linmer. Is the D is silent.
Yeah.
Silent D.
I like it. There are some other connections though in this. There are some other things that this show takes from, obviously. I think we can be pretty clear.
I think so.
That it came out in 1978. Star Wars has to have influenced the version of
the Jedi mind trick.
Oh, absolutely. So this is my next point. Really, is that we do have Obi-Wan Kenobi in this show. The Jedi mind trick is used 6 times, I think, by the Ancient One. It is
so funny.
This is not the sorcerer you're looking for.
Exactly. Some great moments there with how it's used. It's a great power to have if you don't have a huge amount of budget. It's a great power to just turn people's minds and they repeat what you've said to them back to the next person they're talking to. My favorite one definitely is the nurse in the hospital, where Limmer goes up to her and says, it's an unusual situation. I have pertinent information about the girl. And then she goes off to the evil nurse, in the psychiatry hospital and repeats it to her. And the evil nurse, we'll call her, looks at the young nurse going, pertinent. I don't think you've used that word before in your life.
I just laughed my head off at that. It was just like, it was the bureaucratic Jedi mind trick. It was like, it's an unusual situation. I have pertinent information about the girl. What? Why are you talking to me like that? You're fired.
For me, Linmer is an amazing Jedi artist. That drawing was amazing.
Wow. He should be working for the police.
Yeah, it's like
CSI.
But it wasn't just your standard mugshot. It was like tilted to the left with her chin up and the hair flowing like wind.
It was like fab, wasn't it? You're kind of thinking, is that one of the superpowers or one of the powers that you have when you become the Sorcerer Supreme? Do you get to be able to draw like a proper artist?
Again, back to the magic fingers.
The other power that I really liked was the silent talking to one another between Morgan Le Fay and the Ancient One on the bridge, where it's like, you will not pass, or you shall not cross this barrier into our realm. And it's like the lips aren't moving, and it's just like the intense stares. And I just I loved it. I was like, that is the best type of acting.
It was fantastic.
Ever.
Absolutely fantastic. And I'm going to quickly bring in one of my other points here because I absolutely loved Morgan Le Fay's plan. Dormammu says, I'm going to return you to Earth after 300 years and you're going to take out the Ancient One. And her plan is to throw him off a bridge. Which is brilliant. I've spent 300 years waiting to return. When the barriers break, I will go there and throw the old man over the bridge.
But you've only got 3 days.
Yes. But he stopped me, so I will transfer my power to somebody else to throw him over a bridge. Brilliant. Absolutely love it.
I love this. I should have started the podcast with, we have 3 days to accomplish this podcast. Only 3 days. Dun, dun, dun.
Absolutely. Yes, but that's
there must be some kind of, I don't know, trippy, witchy reference to the 3 days.
I'm guessing that it is
Trinity, the Holy Trinity.
No, I think it's more just to do with the barriers between Earth and the other realm are only weakened for this period of time, for a small period of time. I think it might be just while the Ancient One gets Stephen Strange on board so they can bolster the power between the two
But if we
realms.
didn't know about it, then the Ancient One also repeats that it's 3 days.
3 days, yes.
And she will do this.
Absolutely. It's in the book that he has, so, it's obviously
They actually
a rule.
used the lightning as well from, what lightning was it in New Hope?
It wasn't, so maybe Star Wars
Oh my
came
god.
back
George Lucas watched this and then he stole back and was like, you take mine, I take yours.
I'm going to bring it into Return of the Jedi. Yeah, absolutely. Chris, do you want to give us your next points?
Prog rock.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. The music, we've talked about music waterboarding. Okay, so at the start, the music of this TV pilot, TV movie is unique, intense, a sonic death wish, if you will. But my god, it grew on me. I was tapping my foot as that thing when it was like, wah, wah, wah. I was like, na, 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 na.
Do you know what? I actually like the Doctor Strange theme tune. They use it multiple times and in various different versions. Some of them I really, really didn't like, but there's actual theme tune I really liked. I wish they kind of pulled it out a little bit more. The first 10 minutes of this episode are almost unbearable. The screeching through the ears that of Paul Chihara's score is difficult to kind of focus on the actual episode.
Yeah, I think I needed a psychiatrist after the first 10 minutes. It just was so discordant, so intense, just like. But yeah,
it got better though.
It got better, and the second time I watched it, I didn't mind. It was fine. And actually, there was part of it right at the start. It really reminded me of the Hannibal TV series music. That type of music, really kind of discordant, really kind of offbeat, all that type of music being used. And that's when I went, okay, it's not just like. It's still being used. You've still got that kind of going on in TV today. And so it grew on me, with regards to that. And even, I think, the sex scene kind of, I suppose, between, Le Fay and Strange in the Dark Dimension, whatever that means.
Basically the standard porn Waka Waka, but with a guitar and synth.
But then it went strings and it went really intense, and all I could think of was Wagner. I thought it was like Tristan and Isolde's Love Death, and Wagner. That same intensity as, the Dark Dimension was doing its thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice that the music for Earth versus the music for the mystical realm or whatever they called it?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't call it actually.
The Dark Dimension.
Dark Dimension, sorry.
Yeah.
But there was two different types.
Mm.
So that was like, when Strange was in the apartment with Clea, that was the more rock prog kind of wah,
but there's even a great moment when Clea's watching Abbott and Costello, isn't it? Meet the Monsters. She's watching it on TV, and the music of it is so intense. And I thought it was the background music, and then she turns off the television. It's so intense.
Really intense.
I don't know why. I don't know whether it's just our copy of it. We bought it on DVD, so we could watch it for this, and then we watched it also on the YouTube version, because actually the quality, sadly, on the YouTube version is better than the DVD I bought. But I don't know whether it was just the mix of the music is so bad because it's been copied so many times, but it's so intense. Or maybe we're just not used to that.
And there's Morgan Le Fay's signature tune as she appears and disappears at will. It's like woo, like as it goes. And I suddenly thought of the Shaun of the Dead theme where it just immediately went into that for me.
The Blue Wrath by I Monster as well. Yeah. It's got that very cool style, I think, but very difficult the first time we watched it. But I think I definitely grew on me, and I was definitely singing the theme tune afterwards. As well.
Like this is for like a Suicide Squad. Back in the day, this would have been like Suicide Squad level of soundtrack. It would have been. It was like
every scene is punctuated by music.
It was like da da da. Because if I was back in them, I'd buy the vinyl.
Nice.
And it was like going because you could depending on what your mood was, you can start off with a bit of mysticism, like with the strings,
or if you just want to end your party, you put on that opening title stream. I think I'm so delighted for our listeners to be able to get our versions of every single one of those tunes just by our own mouths. Yeah, we're not using any instruments here. I think we've talked enough about the music.
Yes, okay.
John, do you want to crack on with your next point?
Yeah, it's two fundamental beats that I thought absolutely nailed Doctor Strange, actually. The first one was with Wong and his relationship with Linma, the Ancient One.
Absolutely.
I love the reference to Wong here, and I think it really chimes with what they're trying to do in the film, that, he's not a servant. And you have Linma say, Wong, you're a pupil and a friend, not a servant. Sit down and have breakfast. Stop cooking me food. Because actually you're not a great cook. And I kind of liked the fact that you had Linma really trying to say, look, this has been the case in the comics where you've been a servant, but within this TV show, you are a student of mine and also a friend, and we're equals. And I think that really chimes with what they're trying to do in the movie and what Benedict Wong actually mentioned at San Diego Comic-Con. So like it was interesting to see that immediately in the TV series from 1978 and what they're trying to do now in 2016. So I thought that was a really kind of strong kind of beat with the relationship between as well Strange and Wong, that he is an equal, he is a master in his own right. Absolutely. And you see him as well fending off and protecting the Ancient One from Le Fay as well, when she's infiltrated into the sanctum. And so, what Benedict Wong said is that he took on the role, and he kind of discussed with Kevin Feige that he was more of a marshalling of students in the Ancient One's temple, that he was less a servant and also a master of the mystical arts. Exactly. He was the drill sergeant. I think that was the term he used at San Diego. And I think we see this here as well, that he is one of the users and masters of the mystical arts. He's not simply a butler in service of the Ancient One, or indeed Stephen Strange. And I even kind of do like the connection where, Stephen Strange is adamant, no, I'm not going to take on this role of Sorcerer Supreme if I have to be a servant or subservient to you and you're my master. Like, he really questions that, and I think that's a really good little touch. And I think, as I say, I think it chimes with beats that are happening, I think, for this movie.
Yeah. And one of my points was also about Wong's relationship with the Ancient One. I do really, really like it. I also like the fact that Wong gets a moment at the end. He does have the battle with Morgan Le Fay. I think that's really good to see that this character would form a central part of the TV series if it was to come up. And he isn't just going to be like the Kato. He isn't going to be the person that just walks in with the tea or cooks dinner because he's a terrible cook.
He could kick ass like Kato.
Absolutely. Yeah. Really cool. I also like the fact that he's the one that tells Stephen how powerful he is now. He's the one at the end of the episode that says to him, you are like a child with a loaded weapon. Yeah. You either can kill yourself or other people if not trained, which I think is really, really cool.
No, absolutely. That was a really nice touch as well. And I think my second aspect, which I thought was really fundamental to the character of Stephen Strange, which I think they absolutely nailed, it is where Linma is discussing with Stephen Strange, that he's been imbued with a clear mind and a love of humanity. And he's talking about the different mystical arts, sorcery, magic, alchemy, and he says, or science. And he poses the question, would you prefer understanding to ignorance if I were to open up a new way of thinking, i.e. to this mystical arts? And he is spot on when he replies to the Ancient One, and Stephen Strange says, I would prefer understanding. It's that idea of knowledge and training. And again, it links into the teaser trailer. It's that fundamental part of the character that, yes, he has all this great power, but it's not from radiation. It's not from an experiment, an accident, or technology. You have to learn. It's a studious process that he has. And if he doesn't study the different spells, incantations, and how to perform them, they're of no use to him, and in fact can be dangerous, as Wong is saying. This idea that you have to learn and to become this. You can't just simply be one day you're Peter Parker without powers, the next day you're suddenly strong. I mean, he has to learn how to sling his webs and climb up the side of buildings, absolutely. But and that's what I really like about this character, and in the same with Peter Parker as well. There's that learning moment within the origin story of these two, and I think this really comes across, and I think it's an absolute fundamental beat which they nail.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really do.
Yeah, really, really cool. Really like the choices here for those parts of the character that I do think are universal, that they're things that you can identify with. Love that idea.
So Derek, what's your next point?
Well, one of my points was about the relationship between Wong and the Ancient One. I do think their relationship is probably the best written on screen. The two actors seem to have some good little interplay with each other. There's a weird moment with the Ancient One at the start where he's explaining Morgan Le Fay, and Wong goes, "You've never showed me that book," and he said, "You've never looked," which I thought was a bit harsh, but I do like their moments together. They're really good. So I'm just going to pull out a really quick one. Just a comment. The Sanctum Sanctorum is fantastically designed. The set design for that location, which probably would have formed the major location for the show, much like the bridge on the Starship Enterprise or something like that. It is fantastic. There's so many little nooks and crannies and so many great things in there. You can tell they spent pretty much all the money for the episode on the Sanctum and on the Dark Dimension. Those were the two big costs, I suppose. Which is just kind of leads me into one other comment. There's varying stories about this, but one of the reasons why it didn't get picked up to series was that this show, remember this is the 70s, it went between $50,000 and $100,000 over budget on this pilot.
Wow.
Huge amount of money spent for that time. Again, that's a drop in the ocean for a movie now, but that's a significant amount to go over budget. Yeah. So it's one of the reasons why it didn't carry on to series. How would you continue a show for 12 or 13 episodes, which was around what they were doing at the time, or 25 episodes as some shows were going? How would you continue it if your budget was that far over for just the pilot? Well,
you would think, if the sets were built, then the sets were built. You could use them going forward. My reason was the special effects. That's so I've heard similar story.
Yeah.
That it was, I knew the over budget part, but I assumed it was due with the special effects, the lightning, the rays from the hand, that type of thing. That's what I assumed why, that's crazy. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, and just again, there's no detail as to where the extra spend came from, but I do think the amount of money they spent on that set alone is, it's well worth it. It looks like it's hand built. Some of the walls don't look like they actually would exist in the real world. They were kind of thrown up, with a bit of plaster on the walls, but the actual set itself, there's so much detail in there and so much stuff for Doctor Strange to investigate in future episodes. What does this mean? Why is there a globe like this?
That's when I was the globe.
Yeah.
It was like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Oh, also, what was the glowing platform that he was holding his hands over that comes out of the ground?
Yeah, the white cube.
The white cube. I was like, the Tesseract?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know actually, but I mean, I suppose it was, the sign of light, wasn't it? The coming and being projected onto the floor, so I presume it's, he's made the choice. He's now getting imbued with that power from the Vishanti.
Absolutely. Chris, do you want to take us on to your final point?
Sure. So I want to talk about Dr. Handsome. the theme of the subplot of this amazing show. So yeah, it was very, like, that was quite a unique thing. So, for people not sure where I'm going with this, so straight away we know that Doctor Strange was had a one night stand and then he was on a date with someone at the very beginning and then went up and slept with someone else.
Yeah.
So he's irresistible. Then
He's
Clea,
a dog.
yeah, then Clea falls in love with him. And then the whole basically saving premise, not the magic of how he survived, was that Morgan Le Fay basically fell in love with him.
Yeah.
Within what? Like, we know it was less than 3 days.
Yes, exactly.
So, his superpower is not magic.
It's sexy.
It is sexiness.
Yeah.
He is McDreamy of this. Like, literally McDreamy, because he goes into dreams as well.
There you go. Like,
And his sexy aura protected Le Fay across the incantations that would prevent her from getting into the sanctum.
now, I will say, and I know she's the villain, I will say in Morgan Le Fay's defense, 300 years without a man other than the ancient one, or sorry, the nameless one, excuse me. Other than him, she hasn't seen a man in 300 years.
True.
So she does say, I have womanly needs. It's been a while, lads, and you're sending
That
me
was
after.
slightly cringy, actually. I mean, from a modern perspective or a current perspective, that little interaction between the nameless one and Morgan Le Fay was slightly cringy in that. It was all about beauty and age. I mean, it's nothing new with regards to, like, witches. I mean, thinking back to, Michelle Pfeiffer in Stardust.
Yes.
That's the whole thing, that they're trying to retain youth and beauty and that's there. But it's just the way it came out, I think, in the conversation. It was like, oh, okay, you just wouldn't do it like that today. It would be done in a different way, or a different choice of language, maybe.
Well,
but
it was certainly
there was a moment where I did cringe.
It was certainly the threat of, you will be old and barren. Just the way he says it, it's like, okay, chill out. Okay, old is enough. Barren sounded harsh.
He also says, what need of you for Strange when you have your love of me?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you're a big fiery puppet. I'm like,
Like Beaker.
I'm like, I can see why she likes Strange, actually, yeah.
And he also says, I have a lust for human souls, which I thought was quite cool. But yes, it very, very cringy and, difficult for that scene to play nowadays, I suppose. But yes, I can totally get it. He is Dr. Stephen McDreamy, Sorcerer Supreme, maybe.
Chicken Supreme.
I know, I just thought it was so funny, just as a way, like, that, cause you could see, right, so, if this was to be picked up, they would have a Monster of the Week, or a Monster of a couple of weeks, brought by Morgan Le Fay, like the horse knight, and then a Love Interest of the Week.
Yeah.
With Clea always in the background.
Yeah.
And like, that's how it would, I was like, oh.
Especially because they set up the fact that even though he went on a date with that nurse that he's speaking to at the start and sleeps with somebody else, she doesn't seem to really care.
No.
She seems to kind of say, well, I'll see you tomorrow.
He gives her a little peck on the cheek,
Absolutely.
Which...
You
I presume that would be a sexual harassment case in work.
So that was the next episode,
Yeah,
him
exactly.
doing sexual harassment, and then obviously Matt Murdock after the Incredible Hulk would have been in court for him, trying him.
But there was this whole kind of sexiness and sexual undertone to the whole show. I mean, even just with the Le Fay method at the end, where she's back, and you're like going, okay, well, it's a psychic thing.
Yes.
It's how you find your inner power.
It did sound a little bit like the rhythm method.
Yeah.
It did a bit, yeah.
A bit too much.
But how they never explained how she got back and got her youth back. I was like,
that's for a future
yeah,
episode.
I know. But yeah, it was quite an interesting take with Dr. McHanson.
Absolutely. It's the way you set up a show in the 70s, really, isn't it? So, John, do you want to boil your last 7 pages of notes down to a final point?
Yes. It's the visuals. It's, I think this really comes alive, in sort of the second sort of 2/3 or half of this TV pilot. And I think the visuals really, come into their own. I mean, I love the hot hand thing that he does to sort out his aches and pains on his hips.
That was cool.
We all want that. I mean, to be honest, an hour in the gym, phoning it in at the gym, you just want to like crease out those aches and pains the next day with a hot hand, deep heat.
I wonder if that's where they got the idea for deep heat.
Yeah, maybe, but I think the visuals, like, they were trippy, they were psychedelic, they were really, they felt kind of honest and true to the trippiness and the psychedelia that Ditko brought to the artwork, and for which the comics are also so well known. This visual style that he brought. Like, I thought where he goes onto the astral plane for the first time and he's falling through the crazy colors, I just loved that, and it was just fantastic. The music, and the music came really together with the visuals here and the swirls and all this kind of thing, and you immediately think psychedelic drugs. Like, it is really, really cool. And I mean, Clear's face, I think, in the Dark Dimension was really kind of fab. It actually looked really modern, I thought, the way it was done. It didn't look like it came from the 70s. Probably one part of the movie that didn't feel dated, actually. It looked really quite solid in terms of what it did. And then just the dead, the dead looking Linma, in the Dark Dimension, as, Stephen and LeFay are kind of getting jiggy. He's kind of there with the burnt out eyes, a bit like, Caecilius to an extent, and obviously done differently, but he's there kind of strung up in a dead tree. And he's got the dark eyes. John Mills, like the makeup on it looked really cool, really excellent. Probably a little bit of him died inside, knowing what was going on down below.
Please close my eyes.
And then they link it in, to show just that it is there is an illusion there where he's kind of in that position in the sanctum. And, LeFay is using her power to try and, poach Stephen Strange, to the dark side, I suppose. But I thought the visuals here were really good. They felt cool. Even though they were from the 70s, they felt right. They felt cool. And I think that's a big plus for this. If you watch it, you sit back and you just kind of enjoy that visual trippy style, I think, and go with it.
The bit I did love is they stole when he's going to the astral plane directly from the TARDIS in Doctor Who.
Well, that is true.
The spinning TARDIS was the spinning Doctor Strange.
That's right.
I was and then the flying, when it was like slightly transparent flying, which reminds me of the scene in Superman, in the first original with Christopher Reeve. It was like, he's holding her hand flying.
Yes, absolutely. Oh God, let's not talk about that scene.
The visuals for me were amazing. Like, I have to admit, like, the life aura bit where I think she shoots fire at, Wong. And then there was that yellow hue around him, and then the fire was actually in a circle around him. Yeah. So they set a practical fire, or I assume it looks like, literally in a circle, like, I was like, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really, really cool. Definitely one of the big strengths of the episode. Without a doubt.
Derek, what's your final point?
I think my final point has to be something that we haven't really talked about much. It is the person that's being saved in this episode, and probably this would be the central part of every episode.
Clear Lake.
Yeah, Clear. I like her storyline in this episode. The reason why is because I'm a huge fan of Nightmare on Elm Street, and I love that that's her storyline, effectively, is that she's being attacked in her dreams by something she can't control. So she doesn't want to go to sleep. How terrifying is it that she gets taken to hospital by the taxi driver, weirdly, right outside her apartment. But rather than bringing her back up and putting her in her own bed, he takes her off to the hospital. But how terrifying is it that she's telling the doctors, do not give me any drugs, don't put me to sleep, because when I get into my sleep, I will be attacked by this woman. And then she gets fed drugs. Yeah. Firstly by the nurse who ignores any kind of direction from the doctors and is trying to feed her drugs. Then by the person that's supposed to be responsible for the psychiatrist area in the hospital. He feeds her drugs, telling her it's going to be something that'll keep her awake.
And it's a tranquilizer.
And it's a tranquilizer, which knocks her out, and then she gets attacked and goes into a coma. I really like this. I love that there is that central storyline for her, as well as Doctor Strange, that Clea's given a lot to do here. And Clea is from the comic books, is that she is the big love interest in the whole length of
the daughter of Dormammu.
There you go. Interesting.
Oh,
Maybe not in this
related.
TV show.
Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah, maybe not in the show, in the TV show.
No.
But yes, I do like the fact that she is hugely important. The Ancient One says, when she's been used by Morgan Le Fay, that, she is important to us. Make sure you find her, and take care of her and save her. So I like that storyline. I like, that idea. I doubt that she would be used every single episode as the driving force behind, what's happening with Stephen, but I do like this creation of that character and the fact that she could be in the background, becoming a doctor and working with Stephen.
So from a procedural type show, what this was going to be, you would assume. I don't know if they were going to keep her as a supporting character, or would she be one that kind of drops in and out, like the Betty Ross,
right,
in the Incredible Hulk, where she was in every like 6th episode or something.
Yeah,
but she was the love interest, but she was always trying to find him, so you'd only see her for a split second. But then he would have other love interests.
Yeah.
I do agree with the Nightmare on Elm Street. That's what I thought.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
What I assumed was going to be was like the astral plane was more like a dream plane, and then you would always have this Nightmare on Elm Street type piece. Like I was waiting for one part when she was in bed for the two hands to come out of the cheeks like a Johnny Depp.
Right.
And go, down.
And pull her in.
Yeah.
That might have been a bit too much in that early. But yes, I like that. And again, predates Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
But it, the whole concept of it is brought in. You do have the Ancient One saying that, as you said, the dream dimension is a lower level of the astral planes. It's the easiest way that most people can access it. It's only when you get to the higher levels that's where the evil is, and that's where the villains are effectively. But she seems to have translated up a higher level because of having her contact.
She took the high road.
She did.
Not the low road.
But yes, I just wanted to call it out that I did really enjoy also that part of the episode. So that's overall our top 5 points about the episode. I think a couple of notes, before we go on. Not huge amounts now.
Yeah.
I think we've talked a lot about the particular episode, but, John, do you want to give us a first note?
My first note, and it's something I absolutely kind of nerded and geeked out to, and I wish I could get them, were I went American Psycho for a moment. It was the business card that he gives to Doctor Strange.
Oh, yes.
With the embossed with the seal of Vishanti. I was like, oh my god, I want one of those. I was just like how sad am I? And I was like, this is American Psycho. I'm like,
right.
I'm judging business cards. I'm like going, like, the Ancient One has the coolest business cards ever.
Absolutely. Does it come in eggshell, do you think?
I don't know, but it was embossed. It was textured. It was like proper nice.
And I think they were very, very, very impressed with it. They do turn it to the camera a few times just so you can make sure you can see the emboss.
Oh yeah, it was cool. I was like, cool. Really good. I thought it was funny. I think it was something actually that you pointed out and we looked back at it. It was when, Stephen Strange was, saving the kid on the bike from the bus. The bus had kind of been sent on a different course by Le Fay. And there was a children's clothes shop which had, Chubbies, Huskies and Slims. Which all I can say is, the 70s version of how to describe children and what clothes that they require, was.
Can you imagine a mother bringing her 6-year-old child going,
it was
no, you
really
can only
funny.
shop in the husky section, my dear.
What's a husky?
A husky is a more well-built.
So it's a jock, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, so chubby is fat.
Fat.
Husky is well built, like
And
muscly,
slim
and
is
slim
obviously.
slim as a skinny child.
Yeah.
Okay.
But all three offensive though. Which I like. It's not even, regular, medium and large. It's every single one of them is offensive. Which I really like.
It was just like, could you imagine if like Marks and Spencer's had that for their back to school range? All sizes catered for, chubbies, huskies and slims. Like, anyway.
I'm gonna do that as a market.
Really, really funny.
I like it.
And then the other thing, which I forgot to mention was, the stuffed owl on, Stephen Strange's desk in the hospital. Yeah. Again, linking back to Harry Potter, poor Hedwig had been, stuffed for this. Yeah.
Oh dear. One of the notes for me is just, one of the other reasons that the show didn't end off being a success. So again, these are pilots. So what used to happen back here wasn't just executives in a studio that decide where their show goes ahead. They air the pilot, see what the reaction is from the audience, and then hopefully greenlight episodes for it a couple of months later. What happened, unfortunately, in Doctor Strange's case was it was up against, I think it is still the most well-renowned miniseries of all time, Roots. The story of Kunta Kinte's arrival in the United States of America. Hugely popular, miniseries. And it was up against, I think, the second episode of that.
Right, okay.
So it was aired once. Terrible ratings because it was up against something that everybody in America was talking and everybody in America was watching. So pretty likely that had an effect on the audience, that were watching another show, obviously. So, just a note.
Yeah, I've got actually two more, that I remembered. No, I mean, the more fun ones.
Listeners, we expected this.
Yeah.
Yes, we knew it's Doctor Strange. It's a Summer of Strange and John talking.
But it's
Strange.
not really about, it's more fun stuff from the series. But we have him as the milk tray man as well.
Yes.
Which for those of you who don't know, there is Cadbury's milk tray, which is a box of chocolates. The advert is a guy, wearing all black, but with a black polo neck. So he turns up at, Claire's, house in his all black polo neck, but he has this really dodgy line that he delivers to it. It's very Bond-esque. I think, 007 has got a lot to answer for, but it's been raining outside and he goes, well, I fancy a hot bath, as he's kind of wink, nudge at Claire. And she goes, all you're getting is a cold beer, or a bucket of iced water over you. Just calm down, Strange.
Absolutely. I really like that. Again, showing
Really
the strength of Claire. Really, really good. Yeah, good moments.
And then it was the stuntman fall as well of the Ancient One off the bridge, where mysteriously the Ancient One suddenly became youthful, and
with a great wig.
With a great wig, absolutely.
Great wig.
You have to love the transition. Really good, because they show it again as well. It happens, and then all the dream flashbacks where that psychic bond begins to develop between Strange and Claire, and so you see it again. You see it again and again, and it's like, I wonder who the stuntman is there.
Absolutely. That's certainly
really good.
One final note for me, because we didn't really mention it throughout the episode, and it is kind of still an open question for me. I don't understand the choice here. So while he's in the Dark Dimension, Morgan Le Fay gives him the costume. So he's got the coolest Doctor Strange costume that I think they could have afforded at the time. He's got the collars up. He's got the medallion, I guess, which is supposedly the Eye of Agamotto, or might have been the Eye of Agamotto.
Yeah.
He's got the belt buckle, which is shaped like the seal of Ashanti. Really cool costume. He comes back, he talks to the Ancient One and says, well, these were given to me by Morgan. He says, that's fine, they'll do. And then the costume transforms into a tunic with the Captain Marvel logo on the front of it. Why did they do that?
I don't know.
Cheaper?
I really don't know.
Was the costume just rented from the Dark Dimension?
I think so. And the thing is, you can buy that tunic for about $2,000.
That's right, on eBay.
On eBay.
That's right.
The original.
I kind of like the collar and the cape. Maybe you could buy that. Maybe we could look at that.
He suddenly went from like cool wizard to kind of Sackman wizard with that. It kind of looked like it was made out of hemp.
I still wonder, like, I understand, obviously, I know the 70s had some garish, costumes or garish clothes for a lot of people. So I can understand maybe he wouldn't be able to walk down the street with those collars and with the cape. They probably needed to kind of even tone it down for the 70s into a purple tunic.
But with a giant star on it.
But I don't understand the choice that he didn't at least keep the cape and keep the costume and put it in a wardrobe and take something else out. This was transformed by the power of the Vishanti into a purple tunic. And I don't get the choice, but no answers from our guys here.
So I was going to take the note about the costume, but the one final one is just going back to the bridge. So an old man falls off a bridge, nearly hits a taxi, then gets up and walks away, and everyone's like, are you sure? Okay, you grand, bye. I was like, the cat even goes, are you okay, man? No, wait, we'll call an ambulance. No ambulance. This old man shuffling, like, limp on a leg. You're going...
That was really interesting. Well, they do mention that he came out of nowhere, is what the taxi driver says, and nobody seems to have seen him fall from the bridge.
No.
But yes, an old man, and, it's even though he doesn't look that old, John Mills was probably in his early 60s, maybe late 50s. He doesn't look that old. They do play him as an ancient 80-year-old almost. And nobody seems to care. It's like, he goes, Where's that woman gone? And everybody's like, did you see a woman? I didn't see a woman. And just let him hobble off.
Exactly. Except when, like, the girl who runs into the middle of the street, taxi again, swerves to avoid her, goes, oh, no, I'm taking you to hospital in my cab.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, what the?
Yeah, that was really weird. Yeah, just the difference that the taxi driver crashes into a trash can, nowhere near her, then gets out and says, what are you doing wandering right outside your apartment for? You look dazed and confused. I'm going to take you to hospital.
Yeah.
Yet an old man is allowed to walk away hobbling.
Yeah.
With everyone saying, he's fine.
Yeah,
It's
you flew.
Really strange.
Where did he come from? It's like he came from nowhere. Yet you're just about to go over a bridge. No. Didn't fall off the bridge. Yeah. He flew and came from the sky. Okay, yeah.
It's kind of like I think that's one of the things about this TV show is that it has some amazing concepts being introduced into a TV series, like the dream worlds, such as the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff, like the different realms, and all that explanation about different realities and parallel worlds and, evil forces and all this kind of stuff introduced really well and believable as well.
Yeah.
But then just maybe some standard TV script writing that would happen just actually even undermines that. So it's really, really odd.
Yeah, it was just some leaps of logic that could have been fixed with like a line of dialogue.
Yeah.
Like, remember when Cleo walks out into the street and almost gets knocked down by the taxi, she's just had a dream where she's connected with Stephen Strange. Yeah, so she's had a vision. If you just even write in a line going, I need to meet Dr. Stephen Strange, he's at the local hospital, then the taxi driver would take her there and it would all make sense. But yeah, for him to basically kidnap her, throw her in the back of her cab and drop her off at a hospital and go, she's mental. He doesn't even know that she doesn't know her name or where she lives. We don't really find that out. That comes a bit later. But yeah,
you got
interesting
though. TV 70s.
Do love it. So, I think it's time, guys.
Oh no.
Chris, can you defend Doctor Strange, the TV movie, or will it be banished to the dark dimension?
Oh, I'm on the fence. I'm so on the fence. It is so camp. It's so 70s. It's slightly drug-induced, crazy ear waterboarding. But there's an element to it which is just like, yeah, this is kind of cool.
Right.
I would have watched about 10 episodes of this straight. This would be my binge. I'd be like, I know it's so bad. It's like your dirty secret.
It
literally is like a dirty secret. Like, yeah, I kind of like it. I defend.
Yay!
Excellent.
I'm sorry. I know people are going to go out crazy in the comments.
So to put this in perspective, this is better than the 8th episode of Jessica Jones that everybody loves, Chris. That's what we're saying. The one you didn't defend.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's better than the new Fantastic Four movie.
Yes.
Yes.
I think we can all agree with
No,
that.
we can agree with that one. It's better than Suicide Squad? Ooh. No, the editing was better than Suicide Squad.
I think it's definitely how you approach to view it.
If you set your expectations going in, this is fun,
Right.
camp, 70s TV. It is Quincy with magic. Or more now, if you want to think about Grey's Anatomy with magic and porn stashes. That is how you go into this.
Do you know what? I'd watch so much more Grey's Anatomy if there was magic on that show.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It would actually be interesting.
Yeah.
John, do you defend Doctor Strange, the TV movie from 1978?
I do. I give it
Shock horror.
Shock horror, but I mean, I am only going to give it 2.5 sexy Stevens out of 5 because, like, it is a child of its time. It is from the 70s, and I think that's absolutely right. I mean, I looked at this fondly, reminiscently, really, as well. It's my favorite comic book character. So yeah, I mean, there's a disappointment there that it wasn't picked up like the Spider-Man and the Hulk, but I can see why, and I think it is how you approach going in to watch this. It shouldn't be serious. There's elements that are really, really good, and I think the reason why I say it's a recommend, even though I've probably given it below 3, that's just because of the visuals and that. But the music is good. Sorry, I say visuals. I mean, it's poor quality overall, but actually the psychedelic trippy visuals, the special effects are actually really good for the time. It works well with the music once you've got over the intensity of it. It has some fundamental beats that really chime with the character and with his associations, in particular about learning the art of being the Sorcerer Supreme, Wong and his relationship with the Ancient One. It's a reverse Stephen Strange origin, and I kind of quite like that. So overall, there's a lot to laugh and joke about how weird and wonderful and sexy and maybe inappropriate it is, or some of the wink nudges to camera, some of the dodgy stuntman things, some of the leaps of logic, but, and it isn't the best. Mm-hmm. So if you watch it expecting it to be probably what the movie is going to be, or anything from the Marvel Cinematic Universe up to date, to date, you're going to be disappointed. But if you go in and go, right, relax, just let it wash through you, over you, and enjoy it for the period piece that it is. So that's why I give a recommend, because it's my favorite character, even though my score is probably not. But Stephen Strange is sexy, and he deserves that 2.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I like that that's a 50-50. There's a 50-50 chance you'll like this, I think, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's okay, I like that.
Derek, do you defend this episode of the cancelled TV pilot Doctor Strange?
Do you know what? I kind of get what you mean, John. I've been lucky enough to have a TV pilot made out of Nick Fury.
That's true.
Played by David Hasselhoff in the 80s. And I can kind of see what you mean. When you've got your character and it's finally brought to life on screen, I can see why you'd kind of give it a little bit more of a pass than you would if this was something that you weren't interested in at all. What I will say about it, and I think I mentioned it earlier on, if you can get through those first 20 minutes so that you can get yourself into the type of show that it was going for. If you can get into the kind of 70s vibe, if you've never watched a 70s TV show, once you get through that, once you get to the point where Strange meets Clea in the dream, I think from then on, there's actually quite a lot of good here.
There
definitely. Really is. I think it's worth recommending from that point on. What I would say is most people are going to see this on YouTube, which means they're going to tire of it within the first 5 or 6 minutes. We've already had some feedback from some of our listeners who've attempted to watch it and have fallen asleep before getting into the storyline. So I can see that. So I don't want to oversell it to anybody. No. But I do think there is a reward for watching it through the end. I'm so glad we started here, and I'm so glad that we got the opportunity to see a version of Doctor Strange before a time where they could do CGI. Remember, the next version of Doctor Strange that we're going to be talking about is an animated version where they're going to be able to do some major mystical powers here. For the most part, the special effects we're talking about are, lighting special effects, It's overlaying some lighting on top of a character to show that they're using powers. There's not a huge amount of extra special effects here, so don't be looking for the CGI fest that we will get when it comes to October.
Absolutely. It's definitely the dodgy Doctor kind of graphics from Doctor Who.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you remember
and
Doctor Who, if you remember Doctor Who, Star Trek, I should say Doctor Who from the 80s.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, even some of the, some from the noughties, have got some pretty dodgy character work, which I think must be paying homage to that. But
that's what they're going to say anyway. Yeah.
It's within that vein, definitely.
Yeah.
So if you can handle that, you can handle the nameless one. Mm-hmm. Beaker.
Absolutely. So I would recommend it. And I would think, if I think back to, our version of the Incredible Hulk that we had at this time, was an actor, was Bill Bixby for the most part of the episode. And then another actor, Lou Ferrigno, painted green, who was a bodybuilder. And that was the only CGI you had for
the contact lenses.
And the contact lenses.
Yes.
But yes, again, not CGI. But it was literally, it would cut away and it would come back to another actor playing the part. So cheap enough program to produce. For Amazing Spider-Man, it was a guy in a costume who threw ropes at people. That's basically it. There weren't even webbing. There was hardly anything there. We just got a little flash towards his face to show that he had a bit of spider sense. through some webbing, and he beat up some bank robbers every week. This version, if this show had survived, it would be so interesting to see what they do with Doctor Strange. I can't imagine he would be busting robbers using the power of Vishanti, you know?
Yeah.
There would be so much that they have to build on here. I can understand why it didn't take off, unfortunately. But I think there's a lot here to kind of look at the potential. So yes, I would defend Doctor Strange 1978.
Woohoo!
So that's 3 defends
I know.
for the first of our big
It
Summer
can
of
only
Strange.
get better.
I think it can.
Do you know what I would
hope.
love? Do you guys remember Mystery Science Theater 3000?
Oh, absolutely. It's coming back.
Yeah, I know. But imagine that. Watching Doctor Strange. That
Oh
would
my
be
God.
bloody hilarious. Oh my, guys, check it out. What Mystery Science Theater 3000 is. And then just superimpose this in the background and you would understand how amazingly obvious and amazing this could be.
Do you know what? I think that's kind of our podcast. There are 3
Yeah.
of us as well. I don't know which one of us are the robots and which one are the hosts, but
Let's not get into that.
but anyway, thank you so much for joining us, listeners, for this episode of Doctor Strange, Summer of Strange, where we talked about the TV pilot for 1978. We hope you've at least enjoyed the podcast. If you didn't enjoy the episode, you can watch it over on YouTube if we haven't spoiled too much for you. I think it's worth trying.
Definitely try it out. And of course, remember, not only is the Doctor Strange on YouTube to watch, but also if you follow the podcast, leave a review on iTunes, you're in with a shout to join our competition and be a winner if you're pulled out of the hat. There are some prizes on offer, all Doctor Strange related, comic books, electronic comic books, and a Marvel pop of Doctor Strange, all on offer.
Can I just say, the pop is fab. He's looking at us right now from the table. He's very cool.
He is looking rather cool and sexy.
Make it steamy.
Steamy Strange. Dr. Steamy Strange. You can be in with a shout to win Dr. Steamy Strange, on the competition. Just go over to iTunes, go to defenderstvpodcast.com/iTunes or any other good podcast catcher. Just search Defenders TV Podcast. Leave a review, send in an email to us to say that you've left a review, just in case we miss it, because there are a lot of podcast catchers out there. So please just send in an email to say that you've left a review so that we can find you, because the reviews allow people who have never listened to our podcast before to get in touch and to begin listening. So please leave a review, anything to do with the podcast, and indeed anything to do with Stephen Strange if you wish.
Absolutely. Make sure you send that email to feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com. We also have the functionality if you want to leave a voicemail and leave us 90 seconds of your thoughts about the Doctor Strange shows. As we lead up to Luke Cage, it would be great to get some audio voicemails coming in. Just go to our website, defenderstvpodcast.com, and there will be a little link on the side saying, leave some audio feedback. You can record it as many times as you want to and just send us your final version of your thoughts.
Absolutely. And of course, there's also our Facebook group. Go to facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV Podcast or our Twitter handle @DefendersCast. Join in the conversation about this Summer of Strange, and all things related to Doctor Strange, as well as the lead up to obviously Luke Cage at the end of September as it's released in one global blob, I suppose, on the 30th of September. So yeah, please, stay with us for that as well.
And can I just say a huge thanks to Chris for joining us for this episode. He is our third host.
Yay.
It never feels the same without our third host
Absolutely.
here for our podcast. And we have been holding out because I really wanted your reaction. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you didn't feel the whole thing was a waste of time and you did actually get through the whole thing.
I did. It was, as I said, it was the beginning. It was like, what the hell are you making me watch? Oh, actually, this is quite good.
Excellent.
I think with that, again, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back again with you next time.
Talk to you soon.
See you later, guys. Chat soon.
Bye.
You are banished to the dark dimension.